Welcome, this is the question practical question of DBMS. So in this video I'm going to discuss the 35th question. So let me show you the question. So in this 35th question, we have to enter some details in this video as well as the previous video. So these are for the brand table and the product, GRN items, stock, invoice. So these are for those tables. So let's start the inserting process. I'm going to enter the details through the ID software, and first I'm going to enter the details for the brand table. So insert to brand. I have to specify the column. Brand ID is on auto increment, so we don't need to specify that column. So for just brand ID and underscore ID, and the values, I'm going to enter all the values at once. TSI and the same query again 3 times. All the data added into this brand table. When we look at the brand table is already added the data, and the second table is product table. I'm going to add the insert query. And this is the first query, so I'm going to execute this query. It is executed successfully without any error. Okay, the data is added into the table as well. So I'm going to enter the rest of data into this table. So these are the other data for this product table. I'm going to execute these queries. So the queries were executed, and when we look at the table, all the data was added into this table, and other table is GRN table, and I'm going to add the queries for the GRN table and insert into GRN. I have to give the column names, date, use ID. So those are the 2 values that I have entered in this query, values, and I'm going to enter the first row. So this is the first row of this table. I'm going to execute this query. Date is a problem, GRN date it is, not just the date. So when I execute this, I will execute it without an error and added the details into the table. I'm going to do the rest of the script. So these are the details for this table, and I'm going to execute those queries. It was added, and let me show the data. When we refresh, all the details added into this table. And this second one, we have to add the stock table details. I'm going to enter the details, insert into stock, and the stock details, quantity and the selling price, QTY, and the selling underscore price, selling price. Those are the column names and the values. So first value is 20, and the second one is 400. So this is the first detail of this table. I'm going to enter it is added to the GRN table, and when we see the GRN table, so GRN on the stock table or the GRN table, it is added successfully. So I'm going to do the rest. So these are the rest of details in this stock table, and I'm going to execute all the details added into the stock table like this. And I'm going to add the other details into the GRN item table, same as others. Insert into GRN items, for the values, GRN ID and the product ID. So this is the first query for the GR in items table, and I'm going to execute it. So there's an error. GR in ID, product ID, quantity, unit price, selling price, stock ID, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, this should be come up. And when we execute this, it is executing without an error. When we refresh, it is already added. So we have to add few more queries. I'm going to do it. So these are the rest of details for the GR in items. So I'm going to execute. So now all the details are added into this table successfully, GR in items. And for the last two tables, invoice table and the invoice item. So we have to enter the details for the invoice table, and I'm going to enter the query, insert into invoice, first invoice ID is auto increment and the date, and secondly the user ID. And the values. First value, I'm just going to enter the first set of values. So this is the first set of values. I'm going to execute this. So it is added, it was added successfully into this table. I'm going to enter the rest of this. So these two queries are the rest of details of the invoice table, and I have already inserted the other queries for the invoice item table. I'm going to execute both of the queries at once. So I'm going to execute all the queries. So likewise, all the details are added into the invoice table as well as for the invoice item table. And that is it for this video, and thank you for watching.